everybody, and welcome to the Warrior Enclave. My name is Bebe, and here with me is
Toro. Welcome, Warriors.
We're so happy to have you guys here. This is our very, very first video,
and we believe that is the start of something super exciting for us and for you guys as well.
Of course. And so, I think the whole point of this channel really was to just, build our community. You know, for those of you who didn't hear from the beginning, we all know about AW, Authenticity Warrior. And so this is to just help push that one forward and, of course, create new content, create more opportunity for people to come together around this very, very important topic that, you know, many women like ourselves need, to save us, to save, you know, things that are important to us, our families, save our souls,
right. And of course, to continue to raise awareness, continue to have that loudspeaker refusing to stay silent and continuing to shine light on the plight and the issues that women face, across generations. I guess to start off, we can just do a quick intro and give you guys a little bit of a background about ourselves, and how we got to be here. So, we are sisters. If you couldn't tell, we'll leave it up to you to guess who's older, who's younger or whatever. But, I don't know. I think we present very twinny. So
yeah. Well, much to my own dismay, because people often think I'm older. But she's number 2 of 5. I'm number 3 of 5.
Right.
And, yeah, what else? We're Lagosians, the original. Okay.
Omoeko. Yeah. So we're Nigerian, we're Yoruba women, and we're originally from Lagos, living there. And also it is our actual state of origin. So Omoeko Niwa, you know, straight up. Yeah. So, we are sort of cultural hybrids. We were both, born and raised in Nigeria. We went to boarding school, right off, at the age of 10, 11. So, you know, we
did 6 years of that.
Yeah, living kind of independently, just finding our way. We saw our parents maybe 3 months, 2-3 months out of the entire year. We summered, abroad, either in England or Canada or
the US.
Yeah, wherever. Yeah. And then once we got to uni age, we went to school in Canada. Yeah. For what do they call it? Higher institution.
Yes, the higher institution was in Canada mostly.
Yeah, both undergrad and we both have advanced degrees as well. I have an MBA and you are a lawyer.
JD.
Yeah. So, and so we've just kind of followed the same path through life until I think after uni is where there was a little bit of a divergence there. So
yeah,
I
would say I became very religious, extremely religious, to the point where you know those good girls, those ones that are serving the Lord. That was me. And I would say it was you as well too, but you weren't as deep as I was, in that sense.
I mean, it's kind of one of those things where does one really have a choice if you're born and raised in it? So I'd say I was kind of religious too, but kind of a straddler, so to speak.
Yeah. But I'll say that the different paths that we took in terms of, you know, how religious I became, for example, it's kind of what altered the trajectory of my life in terms of me feeling like I had to follow this specific path of, you know, finding the one, you know, getting married, you know, having babies super quickly and just moving on in my matrimonial life.
Patriarchy princess.
Exactly. That patriarchy princess, I wore it on my head like this. I was fully in that sauce. And so that was the path that I took, you know. Thankfully, I had to, because of course I went to school, to be a lawyer, and, you know, in Canada, you have to do that as your second degree. So thankfully that even delayed the path for me a little. Like, I feel like if I didn't even have to do law school, I probably may have even gotten married earlier, you know. So, but that delayed things. The person that I was with at the time, it was a long distance thing. They were in Nigeria. So I had to finish 3 years, actually, really 4 years, because I had some other course that I did. So 4 years of post-university education. And it was like literally right from graduation that I got married. Like a month after graduating from law school is when I got married.
And like not just getting married per se, like you moved back to Nigeria as well. So there was this whole life change. So you moved back to Nigeria, got married, lived there for 5 years, birthed 3 babies.
Quick.
In quick succession.
It wasn't. Yeah.
And then like we find ourselves back together again. This was in 2021 under like extreme circumstances, and that was because you found yourself in a marriage that was essentially like hot water.
Full on.
Yeah.
So yeah, and you know what? And we will get into that in probably other episodes, but the fact that I basically had been in Canada all this while, been building my life slowly. I'd been here since the age of 17 full time. Then I get married at the age of 26, I believe. And like I said, it was like right from law school. I left, packed up my life here, left, went back to Nigeria, got married. And because the relationship I was in was long distance for much of the time we were dating, it wasn't until I got into the marriage that I saw what they call
Shaggy.
Oh my God.
I think we need to put a definition there for the audience.
Oh, we'll put it there. You know what they call shaggy and bastard mixed together. What I saw there, I could not even shout. I could not shout.
Like,
so yeah, that's definitely what happened to me in a sense. And you know, being the true patriarchy princess that I was, the good girl, the, oh my God, you know, you don't just divorce people, you don't just end marriages kind of thing. So I found myself working really hard trying to save something that really should have never existed in the first place. I spent a total of about 5 years in this marriage. I had 3 children very quickly. The first 2 were like back to back, like within 18 months. And then my last child I had in 2021, who I always call my freedom baby, because I think that is what finally just gave me the strength that, look, this space that you are in, it is deeply abusive and it will finish you here if you don't leave. And that is what gave me the courage to do almost the unimaginable. For people who know my story, they know it was crazy. You know, like what you see in James Bond, that has nothing on what I had to do to get out. Basically, packing up my 3 children myself, fleeing like a thief in the night across borders from Lagos all the way to Edmonton. You know, I had to be quick. I had to be fast. I couldn't be caught. It was crazy. My baby at the time was 6 weeks old. No, he was 8 weeks old, because I'd landed in the country with him at 6 weeks. And within like 10 days, I had to flee with my 3 children. So that was like a crazy, crazy time. And I fled to Canada right into the arms of
my arms.
Exactly. My sister, like it was crazy. My parents didn't know, like, I couldn't tell a soul, because where was I going to begin to explain the horrors of the things I'd been seeing, because I'd spent all these years covering it up, lying to people. People didn't know, and I didn't have the time to explain to people. I just had to flee. Like my life was fully in danger. And so in doing all of that, it came as a complete shock to my immediate family and to people who even know me at large. Like it was a crazy, crazy thing. And, you know, I wish I could tell you that moment in my life was even the hardest thing I had to go through. It was freaking hard, I have to admit, but it wasn't even the hardest, because I was not expecting the level of antagonism and just, you know, vitriol I was met with in the hands of my ex and his family, which we will also get to in other videos where we talk about, like, you know, abusive people and the toxic family dynamics they come from, and what it means for someone like you, who you find yourself ensnared in their trap, it is a dangerous, dangerous thing for you. And it is a violent, like it is, I was going to say it's a violence that is inflicted on you, but I think it's like a violation of your soul, the things that these people do to either try and keep you in place, to make sure you don't get out, to make sure that like they have their control over you. And the moment you get the courage to flee, the abuse goes up.
It escalates.
Yeah.
I think, like the backlash to escaping, domestic violence, a lot of women are naive about that, because like you think that the breaking down that has happened either within the relationship or the marriage, enough, the breakfast that you have been served and chopped there, you think that could be the worst of it, but then like for daring to actually escape and not die there, there's still like backlash to that. It's like, so how dare you not remain victimized? How dare you not remain a victim? And so, that was all very interesting to deal with. But I guess I'll just shed some light about myself as well, in this point being that I am proudly what Nigerians call a spinster. And that is never married, never had kids, child free. And so, I was just, while you were in Nigeria, I was still here, just kind of living my life, finding my own path, working, joined the military. My childhood background, has a lot to do with that, as well as just this kind of weird, ethereal level of awareness that I had. Plus also, I chopped my own breakfast up front from my daddy. He served this to me. So I was always very wary, about men, and how men could be. And this is not a man-bashing channel, but when we talk about systems that have been in place for millennia, really since the dawn of time, things like patriarchy, things like misogyny, that we're all just, purity culture, puritanism, what we're all just born into, groomed by, white supremacy, shaped by, when it comes to talking about things and dismantling the power that these systems have over you, you have to call it for what it is. And the simple fact is that anybody who is not a man, who does not identify as a cis heterosexual male, a straight white man, exactly, in this world is marginalized. The further you deviate from that identity, the greater the violence that is enacted upon you, the greater the survival that you have to take on to exist, in this world, to live and all of that. So like, we're here to call things out as they are, to speak very candidly about our experiences, about our observations of the world, about things that we know, things that flesh and blood do not reveal to you.
It doesn't reveal to it is at the tip of that breakfast that you chop.
Yeah, you have to drink from that cup, for you to know that you know, to fully divest from all these things, be it like religion, again, patriarchy, just, you owning your place and your power in this world, as a woman, even though everything around you is telling you that you are less than, that you should
specifically as a Black woman. Actually.
Oh, yes, exactly. So a Black femme, really. So we're not here. It's gonna be bants, but also, serious. Like, there's just really no way to get around that. So, some of you know about the Authenticity Warrior podcast. That is a podcast that we created together to really give an in-depth, retelling, narrative, documentation of the experiences that you had within this abusive marriage, that lasted about 5 years. So, I mean, we did all this while parenting.
All shit was still crazy. So, I mentioned earlier, fleeing like that, the way that I did, it was full survival mode, honestly.
Yeah, and it had gotten to a point where it's like you truly felt like your life was in danger.
Oh, it's not even that I felt it was in danger. It was because the pieces that were being moved around me, honestly and truly diabolical. And it's something that if I feel comfortable enough, I would get into more on here. But speaking of the Authenticity Warrior podcast, you probably hear a lot more about the things that were happening, even prior to my exit. And then even upon my exit, like the things that were being thrown at me. So it was full survival mode. Like landing in Canada was by no means a joyride for me. It was crazy. Taking care of my 3 young children. Like I told you, I had a 8-week-old baby. I was breastfeeding round the clock. So, and my oldest was 4 at the time. My youngest was 2. He turned 3, like the following month. And so three children, 4 and under. I leave you to your imagination on what that must have looked like. Then, it caused a whole transcontinental, legal
brouhaha, which is still ongoing, by the way.
Which for those of you who are familiar with abusive people, they often use that arena to further abuse, to further torment. And so for me, having to deal with all of that, and again, for those of you that know, I'm a lawyer in Canada, like, those legal fees is not benzo. So, like, my whole family, really, I have to say how proud I am of them, really, of how they showed up for me, the support that they gave to me, and rallying around me, family, friends, everybody, all hands on deck. And so it was in the middle of all of that, the craziness, that my sister had said, why don't you document? Why don't you talk about your life? Why don't you talk about everything? Because, guys, I'm not going to lie to you. I was just talking from morning till night.
Yeah, that's the reason why I said it, because, like, I guess it's part of, like, dealing with the trauma, too, and just, like, so she was just, like, saying everything. And at first I was like, well, I think you need to put this down somewhere, because, like, not only was it just so much, like, so much, it was also just, like, some of it was so crazy to like conceive of, to even conceptualize, and I'm like, no, you can't keep this one aside.
Yeah, like you have to. Because here's the thing, when you are being abused, when you're in that space, you don't even know how bad it is until you leave. It's when you leave that you're deconstructing everything. You're like, oh my God. I cannot believe that I endured all of this. And you keep getting a fresher perspective. You keep getting like a newer angle to even see how things truly were. Some of the lies that you didn't even know were lies that were being told to you. Everything.
The manipulation. Oh gosh. All of
that.
The
gaslighting. It's like the puzzle finally just makes sense. And at that point, as someone who has escaped like being victimized like that, you will not even be able to keep quiet. You will just keep talking. Like, it's like your soul is pouring it all out. So I was doing a lot of that, ruminating, talking, and my sister was just like, you need to document this. And in my head, I was just like, where is the time? Where are we going to begin? Look at all this craziness that is going on. And, I had dismissed it, but I think I went to bed and I woke up and I was just like, let's even try and figure it out. What will it take? What angle are we going to use? And so that's where the idea of a podcast came up. And, it took us a couple months to figure it out. But as soon as we figured it out, we hit our stride with it, and we recorded a total of about 14 episodes, which, are still live on,
wherever you can find podcasts. And I think one of the reasons,
I think we should specify, like, wherever you find podcasts, but definitely Apple, Spotify.
Oh yeah,
Google,
Podbean.
And, we'll probably put the link in the description, in the bio, or like also even in this video too as well. So yeah, you were saying something.
Right. I think the podcast, one of the things that I really appreciate about the podcast is, not just getting your own, not just like having you just speak about your, experiences, which was very important as well. But, one thing I like about the podcast was getting also different perspectives, like our parents. There's an episode that has our parents on there. Because when it comes to like domestic violence, like, women suffering in domestic violence, like that's somebody's daughter, a lot of parents have had to bury their children, or even see their children like injured, maimed,
Turning into a shell of themselves.
Yeah, if not physically, then otherwise. A lot of parents are naive because of their own conditioning as well, and they don't really know how to support the member of their family who is going through domestic violence or who has escaped from domestic violence. So I think it was really good to have that. And then we also had perspectives from other friends and allies as well who,
had either witnessed some of the abuse themselves and or, I had given firsthand accounts too, because, at some point, when you've been victimized, sometimes you're like, are you even sure about your own memory, about your own recollection of things? So for me, it was helpful to know that there were some people that, number one, witnessed it too, saw things with their own eyes too. And then there were some people that as the thing happened to me, I had found a way to share it with them almost immediately. So that even if months, years had gone by and my own memory was getting fuzzy, they were like, no. This is what you told me, blah, blah, blah. I remember you said this, you said this, you said that. Because one of the things you go through as a victim of domestic violence is the gaslighting, the manipulation that these people use to try and alter the actual events of what happened. And to me, it's one of the most disgusting things actually, because you and I both know what you did. Mm-hmm. So for you to sit here and lie to my face, trusting that my love for you or affection for you will cause me to question my own memory. And when people say love is a powerful drug, look, I don't joke with that thing. It is a powerful drug. When you love someone because love is such a sacred thing that when you offer it up to someone, you will not even imagine that someone can be playing with you like this, can be toying with you and trying to actually harm you with the love that you have given to them. So to me, I have a lot of empathy for women in general. That's number one. And specifically women who find themselves in situations, some of them not as bad as mine, some of them worse than mine, some of them, they've still not even admitted to themselves what it is that they are going through. We'll get to that one another time. But I just have a lot of empathy. I believe women immediately because it takes a lot for women to speak up. I know how long it took me to speak up. Mm-hmm. It took me 5 years to speak up on things that happened to me over the course of my relationship with this person. This is a 5 to 10 year period. The marriage was 5 years, but I'd actually known this person for almost 10 years of my life. So, this is why this space here is very, very important. This is a space where we believe in women. That's number one. That is non-negotiable for us. Number two, this is a space to, like my sister already said, shatter the silence. We're bringing everything out. I'm sharing my life. I'm sharing my story. And my sister is going to do the same because I've noticed that for a lot of people, sometimes they can't understand what is happening to them just based on the concepts. It is until they hear a story like mine and that helps them connect the similarities to their own story. That helps them break down these concepts better and they're like, oh, something similar happened to me. Once they get to that point where they begin to ask questions, then they're on their way to their salvation. And that's the one that's important to me, really. For women to begin to make the connections, put the puzzle together in their own lives, look at my story and see how it is similar, how it is different from theirs, and then they can come to their own conclusions about their own lives.
That's very important, what you said there about shattering the silence. That is one of the mandates really of this space, one of the mandates that we have taken on because these are things that have been happening for, again, generations, millennia after millennia. And you saying that there's similarities and differences within the stories. Yes, there are. But at the end of the day, like on like a dynamic level, on an energetic level, abuse is abuse. And it is all the same at that level. And even physically, the drama that plays out, you will be shocked. You will be shocked at how scripted it seems. One woman tells a story and it's like so many other women are like, are you in my life? Like, excuse me, like
The
what you have
exact
just said
same
is
thing.
word for word, dot for dot, whatever. So like, it's important to shatter that silence. It's important to not hold the shame of being victimized, of having been a victim,
It's
of
not
having been
yours.
naive enough, of having been innocent enough to love, of having been innocent enough to not even be able to conceive that
Someone
another
can
human being could violate you or anybody else that way, or could conduct themselves that way and carry on that way. And so, yeah, it's very important to come out, not only, you know, to share your story for others, but also for yourself. There's power in reclaiming your story. There's power in telling your story, because the Achilles heel of an abuser is silence. They count on that silence to continue to do what they do, in the shadows. So many of them have this Jekyll and Hyde personality, where it's like outside is, you know, is one face, and then inside is another one, and then they leave you to hold the dissonance of their multiple personalities that they choose to display when and where. And so, yeah, it's very important to shatter that silence.
Oh yeah, of course. And you know, just to harp on something you said, which is the Jekyll and Hyde, and which is part of why I have so much empathy for victims who do not want to speak up, because it's who will believe me. A lot of these people, they have spent a lot of time, energy, resources crafting the perfect image out there. You'll be surprised, the most charismatic, I have the greatest reputation people are deeply abusive in their homes, with their families, with their children, their spouse.
And it's only the people closest to them who really know what's going on.
Exactly. So and that's why for me, I just can never be silent. I don't give who has a problem with it. I will never be silent on the things that happen to me. I read somewhere that, you know, if you're silent when they kill you, they will say you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
You know, it's only the narrative of the hunter we hear. We don't hear the one of the lion. So I'm sorry. I am going to always speak my truth, and my hope, my desire is that this platform gives other people the opportunity, the courage, the strength to speak theirs too as well. The other thing I also wanted to talk about, you know, when we talk about, you know, abuse, the dynamics, just the way things play out, and how different generations have dealt with it. We all know how our mother has dealt with this kind matter. We know how our grandmother has dealt with it. You know, so for me, I love the fact that this channel gives the opportunity for people to see how millennials like me, we're dealing with it, you know, and I love it. For honestly, millennial women, I love you guys, because millennial women are not taking shit from anybody.
Don't open.
Exactly.
Like, we are on the frontier of like being like, we're not doing this shit. Like people are coming home to empty houses. You know, the cabinets are empty. Furniture is gone. Like, the woman has gone with her children. She's not taking this shit. I mean, we still have work to do as a generation, because again, we're just born into these systems, and we're just shaped, groomed, and conditioned by them. But a lot of us in droves, are taking our power back, are divesting from this. And I think it has something to do with the age of information. Like, and so that's why we're here also playing our part, contributing to that, lending our voices.
Because this is ultimately what saved me. The stories that I got to hear, the information that I got to take in, saved me. And so for me in particular, you don't have to do it. In fact, it may be enough that you just be saved. But for me, I certainly want to pour back into where I drew out from. And so this is, again, all the more reason why this channel is so important. And we certainly encourage you all to come along for the ride, because it's going to be crazy, but it's going to be like just a wonderful time for all of us here. And I'm super excited.
Exactly. So yeah, welcome to the Warrior Enclave. It's a watering hole for women and femmes of all backgrounds. You know, for survivors of any kind of abuse, domestic violence, intimate partner violence. Every day we still hear stories. We still hear stories of all these homicides, of all these horrible incidents that are happening. And so, it's a place for you to come to be believed right away. It's a place for you to, as my sister said, draw from courage. You know, we're here to acknowledge, to affirm, to validate you and your experiences, to let you know that you're not crazy. And that as a victim, your story is your story. Okay. You
have every right to
tell it. Exactly. There's no perfect victim. The perfect victim is a dead one. Okay. That's the only victim that the world will finally agree that, yes, so this person indeed was victimized by this person. So you don't have to die. You don't have to die for the world, just to prove that that yes, you indeed were victimized. You can take your power back by speaking. You did not die, so you already won. You won you live, so you won. So therefore,
and don't even ever allow yourself to be discouraged, to feel like, oh, is my own as bad as some other people? It doesn't make what you went through any less valid. Your own may not have been as bad, but it still harmed you in a way that, I'm sorry, we still need to give glory to God that, I beg you.
And whether anyone whether there's any backlash to you telling the truth or not, there always will be, because we do live in a fundamentally abusive world. If you look at the hierarchies, if you look at the structures, the power dynamics, again, we've talked about this. It's a cis-het white man's world. So anybody who is not that is experiencing harm. In fact, cis-het white men are experiencing harm themselves. It doesn't serve you, to conduct yourself the way you do, to be the way you are. Everyone is being harmed. But like I said, the further you deviate from that identity, the worse the harm. So, don't worry about how your story is received. Don't worry about how your truth is received. Your truth is your truth. You're not compelled to tell it. But just know that if you do, there are spaces and there are people like us, who are there to believe you, who are there to hear you.
Welcome you into the bosom.
Yeah, into the fold, into the warrior community, because you are a warrior, you are a veteran, man, like anyone who has escaped from a domestic violence situation.
And even if you haven't escaped, you're still, you're waging the battle for your soul.
Exactly. Every day, every minute, every moment. And we see you, we love you, and we're here for you.
All right, guys. So thank you so much for joining us on this first video.
Yep.
And like we said, come along for this long and exciting ride. We have so much more to offer to you guys.
Lots more to follow. Yeah.
All right, warriors. Bye.
Bye.